As you can see, the cell service here has been, because of the hurricane warnings and the tropical storm warnings up and down the coast, cell service has been very spotty because the cell towers are overwhelmed, not because of loss of communications in the sense of infrastructure or power. It's that there's tens of thousands, if not millions, of people that have flooded the cell service this afternoon, all the way from Miami all the way north up and down the coast, because we got mass, there's evacuations are starting in a lot of multiple counties. I received a word a few minutes ago, but I've not been able to confirm this yet, that possibly a counterflow on the interstate starting, I believe in the morning, they're going to start counterflow on the interstates. I don't know if it's just 95 or which ones are included, but they're going to start reversing all the lanes to northbound only, is what I received a few minutes ago. But like I said, I haven't verified that. But anyway, my point was, when I lost connection, is that the models, even the short-term models, only 12, 18 hours out from this morning's runs and last night's run, they're still missing the data points where the hurricane's supposed to be in the center location in 12 and 18 hours. It's still slightly to the left of it, anywhere from 10 to 30 miles off. So my point is that as this continues to track and it slows down and it wobbles near Freeport, starting later tonight and through early Tuesday, as it starts to lift to the northwest, some of the models that have gotten it the closest, this is the ICLA model, which is actually kind of interesting, and it actually has it almost on shore, just kind of to the north of Melbourne as we get into later Tuesday afternoon. So these models are inching very closer to the west coast. That's why we're under hurricane warning for this area. And we're also going to have huge battering waves of anywhere from about 15 to 25 feet. I did look at a wave height model, and the waves this afternoon are in the 40, the 50-foot range down near northeast of the Bahamas right now, northeast eyewall. But these 25 to 35-foot battering waves will arrive starting tomorrow afternoon on the southeast coast down here, and we're going to have large battering waves as well as large swells starting to really pile up and going into tropical storm force winds by morning, and then by afternoon they're going to get more intense. The latest model looked at, I would think that we're going to be very close to hurricane force winds on the coast in the southeast part, especially from West Palm north up to Stewart. Sometime by midnight tomorrow night, we're going to be very close to gusting to hurricane force winds, and then as we get into Tuesday on, we should maintain near hurricane or stronger during the day Tuesday, and possibly gusting well over 100 as we get up towards Stewart, and as the eye approaches the Cape up in that area. Some of the models try to bring the western eye, very close to the Cape as we get into tomorrow night, or Tuesday night, very close to the Cape near 7 p.m., 9 p.m. Some of the models at that point try to start lifting it north-northeast. Some of the models try to lift it north-northwest to west, just north of the Cape. So that area up near Daytona Beach, Jacksonville. I saw the Jacksonville Weather Service late this afternoon said expects extreme storm surge up there, anywhere from 3 to 6 feet. In some areas, maybe higher than that. This is going to be similar to Hurricane Matthew. When it passed the Cape, we had extreme storm surge and water inundating 1A and going into businesses and hotels from Jacksonville Beach southward down to Daytona. They're liable to have the same or possibly more severe type storm surge than Hurricane Matthew did. So that's kind of how this is unfolding. I can tell you, as we get into tomorrow night and Tuesday, as this thing starts to lift out of the Bahamas, it's literally going to be changing probably every couple hours. Things can change. If we see any wobbles to the west, closer to the coast, the impacts are going to be greater. If we see it wobble back to the farther away from the coast, then the impacts will be less. But basically, we're under a tropical storm warning, hurricane warning, storm surge warning, all the way from Indian River south of me here, about 30 miles, all the way up the coast. And so things are going to rapidly deteriorate tomorrow as we get, especially by late tomorrow afternoon, things will really deteriorate. And then Tuesday, all day, they'll be in hurricane force conditions here along the southeast coast. So you can see the waves right now. They're not huge, but I will tell you, I was out here about 6 hours ago. They're about half this size. So they're probably 3 feet to 5 feet roughly, 2 to 5 right now. They're pretty good sized breakers now forming. So by tomorrow morning, when I come back out here, this is going to look totally different. I expect enormous beach erosion all the way from West Palm Beach all the way up to Melbourne, all the way up to Jacksonville. There's going to be enormous beach erosion along the east coast with these big, large battering waves over the next 48, 72 hours as it continues to go up the coast, as the hurricane will make its way slowly the next 48 hours, and then as Tuesday, it'll pick up speed as it starts to see the break in the trough and up to the north, the weakness, and it'll pick up its speed and hopefully stay off the coast and pick up its speed and get up past the Cape and then on up past in east of Jacksonville and then turn up towards South Carolina, North Carolina, where it's going to be very close to Charleston, south of Charleston, it looks like on the latest forecast, and maybe just barely south of Cape Hatteras and Kitty Hawk area, but very, very close to landfall there in the western eye wall, and that's still going to be more like Thursday as it rockets off to the northeast. That's just a real quick update right now, but I can tell you that a lot of people here on the beach in these high rises, you can see that it looks like the power's out. This is all flood zone A and B. Everybody's evacuated. This is virtually becoming a ghost town here on the beach. There's nobody out here. The hotel I checked into this afternoon, shortly after I arrived, I literally had about another 30 people behind me, and the hotel was sold out in a matter of minutes. Just shortly after lunch, once those advisories and updates that kept coming in this afternoon, then everybody flooded the hotels to get off the beaches here in their homes. So that's kind of what's going on. Gas is still a very big problem down here. And it's not that we don't have gas at the terminal. I talked to a local gas station owner. He said the problem is there's so many tankers lined up to bring fuel out that's taking a long time to fill each truck in order to go to the station to get the fuel back into the station. And here's what one guy told me, the owner, he repeated it to me twice to make sure I clearly understood what he was telling me. And I said, well, how long does your gas last? He goes, well, let me tell you, I got a load yesterday at about 12 noon, and he said by 4:30 I was out. I sold more gas in what normally will last a couple weeks here at his location. He sold his complete supply, and he's got a lot of gas. He's got a lot of tanks underground. I think he said 4. He was empty in 4 hours, 4.5 hours, the exact quote. 4 hours from full to empty at the station in 4.5 hours. That's unprecedented. That's a lot of gasoline. I can tell you that service station, he gave me his number. He said, call me at 7. I didn't want to wait to call him here a few minutes ago. I went back to the station a mile away from the hotel, and the tanker just finished dropping the gas, and there's already 50 people in line waiting for gas. That's what's going on in South Florida. So anyway, that's about it right now. Not a lot to tell you. It's a really pretty sunset here along the eastern Florida, and those bands, you can see them rotating around. You can see some pretty intense storms here just off to my east-southeast here. We did have some tornado warnings earlier in southwest Florida on the outer bands over by Marco Island. We had a confirmed tornado on the ground over by Marco Island. That was about 3 hours ago, and that rotated rapidly off the southwest coast of Florida. But we're going to have tornadoes starting probably as we get into later tomorrow night. And Tuesday, there'll be rotating bands of tornadoes because you'll have the differential motion from vorticity as the bands span on the coast. You'll get these real water spouts and some tornadoes that'll make their way on these outer bands, and that's going to be more of a problem on Tuesday than it is tomorrow. But we expect a fair amount of tornadoes as the bands rotate around the western side of the hurricane and the east side of Florida. But you can see these bands here, these storms right here, as they develop, they're rocketing southwest at about probably 40 to 50 miles an hour. They're just flying by. But right now, and actually where I'm standing right now, I'm actually getting sandblasted by the sand. The wind's probably 30 sustained now, and it's picking up the wet sand, and it's already flying. So these waves are, the pretty good size. It's hard to tell here, but they're 3. You can get breakers about 5. They're about 5 feet off the coast here, but they've gotten a lot bigger in the last 6 hours. By tomorrow morning, it's going to look a lot different here. There's going to be huge waves coming to shore based on all the wave model forecast I'm looking at. So anyway, we'll get back with you guys a little bit later. Sorry, can't answer everybody's question. I've just been flooded with people wanting to know if they're in a high rise, if they're in a flood zone, should they evacuate. You got to listen to your local emergency managers, local National Weather Service. If you're in that flood zone and you got evacuation orders going out this afternoon, a bunch more getting implemented tonight, and a bunch more coming out tomorrow morning, you better evacuate because it's only going to get much, much worse. And people see the video and what's happened down at Great Harbor in the Bahamas today when the eye wall came over 220 miles an hour. Total devastation, catastrophic failure of buildings, both 2-story, 3-story, 5-story buildings on the ground. Roofs have collapsed, water's out. The storm surge was extremely impressive. It looked like they had about, visually what people sitting on film was about 10 to 15 feet. But word is that in the eye wall, the water was over 20 plus foot storm surge and catastrophic damage from government officials there. So I think in the coming days, when we see what actually occurred, where the actual eye wall was, we're all going to be stunned. It's very horrific down there. Do not kid yourself what this thing says. Let's hope this thing stays off the coast, does not cross the coast. There's a couple of
say it's going to try, and if it does cross the coast into Florida, we're in big trouble. I can tell you that. There's no doubt about it. If it crosses the shoreline here, the eye wall, not the storm, just the eye. Right now, it's not forecast to do that, but any little more wobbles to the west here, we've got we're down to very little wiggle room as we get into late tomorrow and Tuesday. This thing is just jogging a couple 10 miles and 15 miles to the west. And what makes me nervous is that wobbles have it now like just easy here, not very far. And if they're off another 10 or 20 miles like they have been all day yesterday, all day today, then we can have a much more serious situation underway in Florida starting on Tuesday afternoon. So anyway, that's it for now from live from Florida. And sun's going down. I mean, that's back to the rest before it's going to be about 4 days in the car and continuous non-stop storm chasing. Hurricane Dorian heading, and we'll be tracking toward the eastern seaboard of Florida in the coming days. Thank you guys so much. Bye-bye.